Newman City Council Redevelopment Agency regular meeting on March 8th, 2011. To order, please. Please stand for the pledge. Ready to begin. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. So Lord, we ask that you give us the guidance and wisdom and knowledge to make the hard decisions for this community, the great community of Newman. And we ask that you touch each one of us and ensure that we do the right thing for our community. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Davis?
Present.
Hutchins?
Present.
Candia?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Martino?
Present.
Mayor Kate?
Present. Item 5, declaration of conflicts of interest. And I don't think we have any this evening. We'll go to item 6, ceremonial matters. Item 7, items from the public, non-agenda items. Now it's time for any member of the public wish to address council. Now it's time to do so. Seeing now, we'll go to item 8, consent calendar. A is waive all readings of ordinances and resolutions except by title. B is approval of the warrants. C is approval of the minutes of February 22, 2011 regular meeting. D is adopt resolution number 2011 next in number, a resolution rejecting the claim of Tony Miller and Richard Sanders. E is approval of the extension of the current agreement to provide audit services by Clinton, Bird and Company, PC, and authorize city manager to sign an agreement for audit services.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to remove warrant number 38890 for separate consideration, please.
I'm sorry, 38890. Okay, there's been a request to move item 38890 for separate action. Bring back to council for direction on the remaining minutes, or warrants.
I second that motion.
And a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 38890, separate action.
I move for approval.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to item 9, public hearings. A is adopt resolution number 2011 next in number, a resolution declaring the existence of a public nuisance under ordinance number 281 of the city of Newman, Abatement, Mistletoe. And V.S. Garner.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. The item for you tonight is to consider adopting a resolution declaring a public nuisance under ordinance number 281, Mistletoe Abatement. Mistletoe is an evergreen parasitic plant that grows on a number of landscape tree species throughout the state of California. Mistletoe reduces growth in trees by utilizing the host mainly for water and mineral nutrients, and ultimately may kill them with heavier infestations. It is important to remove the mistletoe before it is spread to other limbs and trees throughout the city of Newman. The most effective method for control is through complete removal of the branch by mechanical pruning. Mistletoe abatement notices were sent out to 48 properties in accordance with the City of Newman Municipal Code, Chapter 9.06, Section .020. This notice informed the property owners of the nuisance abatement procedures, options, and the right to object at a public hearing. Included with the staff report is a list of the properties that received the mistletoe abatement notice, and I just handed out the most recent updated one as of this morning of those properties that have complied. Originally there were 48 properties on the list. We're down to 28. We've had 20 compliance as of this morning. But upon adoption of the resolution, staff will then contract to have the mistletoe removed and bill the properties for the costs associated with removal of those properties that still have a mistletoe in their trees. We're still going to work with them. If we get the contractor there and they've already removed it, then obviously we won't go in there and remove that mistletoe. But this is something that is important to us, and therefore staff recommends the City Council adopt a resolution declaring a public nuisance under ordinance number 281, mistletoe abatement. At this time, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them for you.
Any questions of Garner before I open the public hearing? Seeing none, the public hearing is now open. Any member of the public wish to address the council, now is the time to do so. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for direction.
I so move for adoption resolution number 2011, next number, a resolution declaring the existence of a public nuisance and an ordinance number 281 of the City of Newman, abatement of mistletoe.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item B, first reading and introduction of ordinance 2011, next in number, ordinance amending SCM development agreement. Michael.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Tonight before you, we have a proposal for a First Amendment to the Sherman Ranch Development Agreement. This project really dates back to 1999 when it was originally approved. But in September 2004, a planning commission reviewed a proposed development agreement for the Sherman Ranch Development Agreement, or Sherman Ranch subdivision, excuse me. That was the time when the housing market was really starting to heat up. Following the recommendation of the Planning Commission, City Council adopted ordinance number 2004-03 approving the development agreement in October of that same year. There were a lot of things that were spelled out. A lot of it just really in the development agreement spelled out how Sherman Ranch was supposed to develop, who was responsible for infrastructure, and the timing of those infrastructures. It also had some language in there regarding reimbursement agreement, or reimbursements for oversizing master plan utilities. Subsequent to all these actions, the city then adopted a substitute reimbursement and settlement agreement to clear up any outstanding issues related to reimbursement and oversizing of those master plan infrastructure issues. And that agreement was to settle all the complete and full satisfaction, the total amounts for which the developer remained eligible to receive reimbursement. As with any document, it can be read several different ways, and unfortunately the developer didn't have the same read as we have. So in January of 2010, the developer filed a lawsuit in Stanislaus County Superior Court alleging breach of contract, unjust enrichment, common count, conversion, and breach of fiduciary duty. While we believe we remain in a very strong legal position, we always try to settle out any issues to try to protect the city and its risk liability. So we initiated settlement talks with the developer. Through hard work and mutual cooperation of both sides, we did actually come to a settlement agreement last December. And part of that settlement agreement does require some future actions, of which we are starting today. In January of this year, the Planning Commission looked at the First Amendment to this Sherman Ranch Development Agreement. They agreed with the proposed changes, and now they're recommending the City Council adopt the ordinance. So within your package, I did provide a copy of the First Amendment to the Sherman Ranch Development Agreement. Just to summarize some of these things and the major changes. The first thing the city is agreeing to do is to extend the term of the development agreement for an additional 3 years. Staff believes that's fair due to the downturn in the economic climate of the housing market right now. It's really cost the housing industry about 3 years at this point in time. The city/redevelopment agency is also setting up a fee offset program for buyers who qualify under low and moderate income levels. So what we're going to do is we're going to use city home funds as well as redevelopment low and moderate housing funds. It's going to be a fee offset program. What we'll do is use those restricted funds to pay capital facility fee programs fees that the developer would otherwise be able to be required to pay to the city. So therefore we will be taking redevelopment and home funds and paying our own fees with those, thus reducing the cost of building the unit to the developer. However, those offset funds can only be utilized for qualified buyers, a copy of which the standards are set by the state. On January 1st of this year, California adopted a new building code which requires sprinklers to be put in all residential units. So there was a mass influx of building permits all across the state by builders trying to get out of that code requirement. In order to help the developer, we're agreeing to extend the life of those building permits for 2 years, at which time they can pull those permits during that point in time. And what they would do is fall under the building code requirements. And lastly, there's a reimbursement agreement that we've also reached with the developer, and we've agreed to extend that for an additional 3 years. And those are, again, are funds that would be collected for anybody who ties into those oversized master plan facilities. Those would not come out of city general funds. Overall, we believe that the changes to this development agreement would be positive for the city. It does actually create an economic climate that is more conducive to building units. The more units that are being built are there for jobs in our community, especially in the trades, which has really been hit at this point in time, the construction trades. Also, any new residential units that are created in town would generate additional citizens that could hopefully, frequent our businesses. And also new single-family houses on our tax roll would help the city in terms of property taxes. And again, the funds that we will be using are restricted funds and low and moderate redevelopment funds, as well as home funds. And those are restricted, meaning they can only be used for housing anyways, and that's what we're doing, is trying to help low and moderate families get into this new single-family units. So in conclusion, after many months of negotiations with the developer and the actually agreeing to a settlement agreement, the thing that we're proposing right now should not have any financial negative impact on us by the fact that we extended these reimbursement agreement. Again, they're coming from other developers that are then buying into the system by attaching to those oversized master plan constructions. We are using restricted funds, our home funds, and our low and moderate to help buy down the cost of the building permit to the developer, and we're using those funds to pay our capital facility fund. So really it goes from one pot of money that the city has to another pot of money the city has. None of those funds actually go directly to the developer. And then ultimately what it does for the developer is it extends the life of his development agreement and reimbursement for another 3 years, giving them additional life and able to compensate for the 3 years of economic downturn that we've had right now. So with that, we're recommending that the City Council tonight conduct a public hearing. At the conclusion of that public hearing, we're asking that you introduce the ordinance amendment number 2011-01, which would be amending the Sherman Ranch Development Agreement through approval of the First Amendment to the Sherman Ranch Development Agreement. And I can answer any questions that you may have at this point.
Any questions of Michael before we open the public hearing?
Quick question, Michael, if he does build these out, will this help us in our state housing requirements?
Yes, they will. That's a very good question, Councilman Hutchins. The state does require cities to provide a certain amount of low and affordable, low to moderate affordable housing throughout our community. So this would help us meet our state requirements.
Any other questions, Michael? Okay. I'll open the public hearing. Now it's time for any member of the audience to bring to the council's attention any concerns you may have. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for direction. Somebody? Anybody?
Okay, I'll get it started. Make a motion that the first reading of introduction of ordinance number 2011, next number, and ordinance amending the SCM development agreement be approved.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Starting to wonder there for a minute.
That was one short.
Okay, we go to item 10, regular business. A is adopt resolution number 2011, next in number, resolution authorizing the execution and delivery of a loan agreement and authorizing and directing certain actions in connection with the refinancing of the city's wastewater treatment facilities 1999 refunding certificates of participation. Lou.
Evening, Mayor and Council members. Tonight before you is a resolution authorizing the refinancing of our wastewater treatment facilities 1999 refunding certificates of participation. In 1991, certificates were issued to finance major wastewater treatment facility construction. Certificate coupon rates increased over time and topped out at 6.75. In 1999, those certificates were refinanced at a lower rate. The 1999 certificates have a coupon rate that also increases over time. We have 8 years remaining on our repayment schedule. We're currently paying 4.875 and will top out at 5.25% in 2018. Brandis Tallman has presented us with an offer to refinance our certificates at 3.9% flat over the remaining years. And in addition, we're also recommending taking this opportunity to pay down a portion of our outstanding debt. This will greatly improve our savings over the remaining years. According to the proposed refunding plan, we have our debt paid off 1 year earlier. Over the next 6 years, we'll have an annual savings of about $98,000. Including this year, and at the end of our repayment schedule, we will have saved about $175,000. In essence, our fund will be $175,000 better off than if we continue on our current repayment schedule. Closing costs are only $5,055, and annual trust fees are less than what we are paying now. We've requested offers from other sources and have found this to be the best plan for the city. Our sewer fund is healthy and has the ability to successfully execute this refunding plan. The next call date for our certificates is May 1st, and our attorney has reviewed the documents and reported back that all looks in order. I'd be willing to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions of Lou? Seeing no question, bring it back to council for direction.
I so move that we adopt resolution number 2011, next number, a resolution authorizing the execution and delivery of a loan agreement and authorizing and directing certain actions in connection with the refinancing of the city's water waste treatment facility, 1999, refunding with certificate of participation.
Second the motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Lou. Go to item B. Let's adopt resolution number 2011, next number, a resolution approving the West Side Theater Foundation radio station funding. Michael?
Thank you, Mayor. In your package, I passed out a memo to you regarding the possibility of trying to pledge $30,000 as a redevelopment loan to help with the request of the West Side Theater Foundation for the startup cost of the proposed non-commercial radio station. Unfortunately, after we've released that, our redevelopment agency attorney has now advised us that we are unable to use redevelopment funds to help with this particular cause. With that really rolls back to one source of income or one source of funding that we could probably provide, and that would be to tap into your general fund reserves and to pay the $30,000 out of that. Now this original request came in October 2007, and it came before the council at that particular time that pledged that. Now it's been a number of years since you've pledged that, and I know Mr. Nagel came back to us before our last meeting and wanted to, tout the fact that the FCC did approve his request, which is very good for our community. I know it's very competitive. So with that, he's still looking to the city to see where they stand with respect to the original pledge that occurred in October of 2007. So with that, I think the mayor would like to lead the discussion. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
As you can see by the staff report, in 2007, I had some discussion with Rick about this, and at the time our financial situation was better, and I thought it was and I still think it's a great thing. I have concerns when Michael told me that possibility RDA funds could be used for that, and I thought, okay, well, we could still go forward. Now, since being told that RDA funds cannot be used, it raises some questions for me, and I brought this to the council in 2007, but times have changed, and so I want this council to take in consideration, what's our next step? Do we continue to partner and help fund? Keep in mind that general fund monies are going to have to be used. Part of me says I'd still like to go forward, but another part of me says it's a difficult decision in terms of we're asking our employees to make concessions. We're looking at tight budget. We still have no idea what's going to happen with funding, although I think we all have a pretty good idea. But $30,000 is a lot of money, and in 2007 we were in a lot better position than we are now. But I want this, rather than bring it back and let's hash it out in March, I told Michael let's leave it on the agenda and let's talk about it. And I'd be interested to hear what the rest of the council feels. Again, part of me, I fully support it, but on the other hand, we're talking about tightening our belt and watch our spending, and we're still going to have to deal with our employees as budget time rolls around. There's no doubt in my mind that we're going to be asking for more concessions to get us through. We've been fiscally conservative for a long time, and I don't know that I want to face the wrath of the public of dishing out $30,000 when we're telling the same public that times are really, really tough. When we're telling our employees times are really, really tough. So with that, I'd like to hear what the rest of the council has to say.
Well, I have one big question, probably and that would have to probably come from the foundation as to the benefits to the city. Are there any direct benefits to the city from having this radio station?
I think I can address that. Rick Nagel, 404 Jensen Road, Gustine. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I think there's a lot of benefit to direct benefit to the city itself. Is that what you're asking?
Yes. I mean, I understand it's a nonprofit type.
I'm sorry. I see a lot of benefit to the citizenry for opportunity to get local news, opportunities to discuss issues that are important to the city, like housing, air quality, water quality, ag land preservation. It's certainly be a forum for all community organizations, the citizens, the senior citizens could get involved with discussing their issues and their activities around town, for example. It would be a benefit to the school district as far as giving the students an opportunity to learn some broadcasting skills, maybe some news skills. But if you're looking for direct benefit to the city itself, I don't know that I can point to anything.
Well, I guess my question would be be able to utilize this for public service announcements for the whole city?
Oh, absolutely.
And different things like that.
Absolutely. It's a
Instead of-
non-commercial, I'm sorry, Don. It's a non-commercial educational station, and the whole, not the whole, but certainly a large component of it is for public service announcements. It's not a commercial station, though, so there wouldn't be advertisements for the local hamburger joint, for example. It would be public information about, city council meetings or planning commission meetings or any community organization that might have some public event that they want the people to know about to come out to.
And what's, you told us at the last meeting, but I forgot, what's the radius basically going to be?
The strong signal will be approximately 4 miles south of Gustine and 4 miles north of Newman, and about 4 miles to the cows over in the hills. So that would be the strong, that's what the FCC calls this 60 dBU signal, which is a city grade signal, and then beyond that there's a 40 dBU signal that will actually reach to Patterson and Delhi and Santanella and Livingston, but the ability to receive that signal would be dependent a lot on the antenna or the quality of the receiver, or perhaps the location of the person that's trying to tune it in. Now there is potential down the road to put in place what are called translators, which broadcast the same programming only on a different frequency. Like, for example, if you wanted to reach Crow's Landing or Patterson or where have you with a stronger signal yet, you would put a translator in place near that locale, carrying the same programming but on a different frequency that would be open in that area, with a less contour as far as the signal coverage.
Well, this is something I've been strongly in favor of forever. And I know that $30,000 is a lot of money. We did make a pledge. I feel we should honor that pledge. I think that this is something the community will benefit considerably from. And if there's any way possible, I'd like to see it taken.
Yeah, Bob knows this. He was a recipient of a phone call this evening, and it wasn't planned, but there are 7 volunteers right now that are calling at random, people around Gustine and Newman assessing their interest in supporting a station like this. And I can tell you the early results are very favorable of having this kind of facility of serving the West Side community.
If we could use RDA money, I'd say do it in a heartbeat before it goes back to Sacramento. But again, and that's why I think, it's important to have the discussion. And I understand, we and I was the loud talker in 2007. I thought it was a great idea, and I still do. But I just want you to keep in mind that we have a budget to be concerned with. And there's going to be budget hearings coming up, and there's going to be employee groups we're going to have to deal with. I don't know that $30,000 would make a huge difference in terms of negotiations and concessions and so forth. But I can almost hear it now. You gave $30,000 to the radio station, and how about our raises?
Rick, is there any possibility that the foundation could accept a lower amount and still be able to move forward?
Well, certainly anything's possible. Right now, I'm working on putting together a grant. I'm working with a professional grant writer to submit to a federal agency for a funding opportunity. Because this would be what they call first service to this area. There's no real service like this to this area. There's a very strong possibility of getting this grant, and we would qualify at a 3-to-1 match. In other words, this $30,000 you're talking about would result in $120,000, $90,000 from the federal agency, and $30,000 from the city of Newman. So I would say certainly any amount of money would be useful.
Is the city of Gustine still on board?
I'm actually going before them a week from tonight, but all indications are that they are still on board.
On board with?
$25,000.
We had to one up them and give them $5,000 more.
Yeah, I was going to say, we can't.
Well,
And I should also mention, they've also committed a 5-year use at $1 a year of the water tower for the antenna installation.
Have you gotten any support from the school district?
Dr. Foss has promised a letter of support, as has Dr. McWilliams in Gustine.
Any financial support?
No. I haven't asked for it. Right now, as part of this granting process, the agency has strongly suggested that we include a packet of community organizations that support the idea of a radio station, including local, regional, and federal legislatures. For what it's worth, I've got a letter of support from Senator Mcconnell. I've got one today from Congressman Cardoza. I expect one from Senator Boxer. Lots of things in the mill, but so sure, there's been lots of verbal support, but no. And I haven't really been soliciting. I guess the solicitation for funds from the federal government is through this grant process that I'm working on.
Now, with the grant that you're putting in for, is there a match that has to be in there?
Yes, well, I think, but I believe that by the time they make the decision, I have to have, because I was just working on the budget today, and I'm going to ask them for $100,000, which means that I have to have $35,000 if it's a 3-for-1 match. I mean, just to talk in round numbers. So if they grant that, they won't make a decision until September. if I understand the process correctly. So when they make that decision, I better have that money, or I guess the grant will be denied. Assuming we win the grant process as it is.
And if the grant is denied, even if you have that money, where do we sit then?
If the grant's denied, even if we have that money, I could see where the station could still go on the air, but it would not be with new whiz-bang equipment with a long life cycle like I'm hoping to acquire, and probably get some used equipment that would still get the station on the air with essentially the same coverages. It's just that I will be out contacting those folks that I know in the broadcast industry, begging for used gear to make it happen. And baling wire,
And chewing gum.
yes,
Don't.
and duct tape too.
Duct tape's better.
Any other comments? Michael, the only other funding source is just general fund reserves, correct? General fund money?
Yeah, without, off the top of my head, that's the only other source I can think of. Redevelopment and general fund reserves is really where you're at. We can't use our capital facility fees; those are all earmarked for that, and most of our other funds are restricted.
I think it's really a bad idea now, as much as everybody's being cut, jobs and time and days off, et cetera. I think it's a bad idea to spend this much money on the radio station.
I guess, the only problem I have is, I brought this for the council and we passed it, and I almost feel, I feel bad almost, for, for using the term reneging. We've talked about, not dipping into our reserves. So I'm torn. I'm just torn. I think no matter what, you're gonna get blasted. You can please half people half the time and the other half none of the time, I guess, whatever it is. But I just think that we have to remember this night, a couple months down the road. So, any way you cut it, $30,000 is a lot of money. Again, I don't know that it's a life-saving amount, in terms of personnel. It could be, I guess, but again, we're going to be, I'm sure we're going to be asking for continued concessions to try to get through. And although we're fairly stable in our budget, because the city has been fiscally conservative over the years, and staff has done a good job cutting corners where they can and getting by and so forth and so on. But it's what they pay you the big bucks for.
Well, all of the comments tonight are valid. I mean, every one of us is concerned about that. But we also have to be concerned, even though I wasn't on the council back in 2007, the city did make a commitment and the council made a commitment. And in some way, we need to live up to at least, if not all of it, part of it, in my opinion. So.
Yes, if I may, that pledge is what fueled me and working
Exactly.
3.5 years to get to the point we are now, knowing that there would be some seed money, because 30,000 from Newman and 25,000 from Gustine, and Deidre Kelsey has pledged 15,000. That's still not enough to make it happen if we're going to get all new equipment. And that's the reason I'm working on this grant.
Well, you heard the comments for and the concerns, and so I guess we'll bring back council for direction. Somebody so wishes to make a motion. We'll see what happens.
I make a motion that we do not adopt resolution 2011, next number, a resolution approving Westside Theater Foundation radio station funding.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Seems that motion has died for lack of a second.
Okay.
Bring it back to council for further direction.
I make a motion that we approve the $30,000. The
There's-
pledge was made and that we honor it.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
I'm gonna second it.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
No,
Po-
Mayor, should we go roll call?
I was gonna suggest that, yes. I was gonna suggest roll call, please.
Before we do that, can I just ask a question, Michael?
Sure, absolutely.
Can we send this back to you to see if there's any other way possible that we can come up this money out of? I know we were looking at the RDA, and you haven't had a whole lot of time since then to look at it. Can staff take another look at it, see if there's another way that we can come up with this?
We could, and anything possible. I mean,
You might have a magic
Yeah,
pot
it-
somewhere?
Well, no, but I mean,
No,
I mean, up until tonight, it was RDA, and then we.
well,
heard-
originally it was city general fund.
General fund originally.
Okay,
It was originally city general fund. With everything going on at the state level, we said, you know what, maybe this is something, an opportunity to try to use up some redevelopment funds that the governor's not going to steal from us. And unfortunately, that was not allowable, so therefore we're back to city general fund.
and what, Tom, what was the reasoning behind the fact that we couldn't use the RDA money?
I didn't see Iris's opinion on that.
Yeah, she just said you couldn't use it for startup of buying equipment and operations and maintenance and a few other things.
She, and I can say, Ms. Yang does tend to, I mean, she'll push the envelope if possible, and so I would say it's clearly not allowable then under the RDA.
Okay, we've had a motion. Michael, do a roll call, please.
Sure. Councilmember Davis,
reject.
Hutchins,
Yes.
Candia,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martina,
Yes.
Mayor Katie.
Yes. Reluctantly, yes. I'll suffer the wrath later. Okay. For-
You want me to read you the minutes?
Okay, the motion to approve the resolution 2011, next to number, a resolution approving the West Side Theater Foundation has been approved by roll call vote 4-1. Okay,
Mayor, on that one, it'll just be a minute order, just reaffirming the original pledge.
yes,
because of the other one.
yes,
Yes.
yes. Yeah,
Thank you very much. If and when this radio station comes to fruition, I think the citizens of Newman and the greater West Side will appreciate your votes tonight.
I think so too, Rick. I think unfortunately, people can't really see the ramifications yet of what it's going to do for the city.
Right.
And I think that's the most important thing, is to educate the public as what that station is going to mean to them.
It's still a long ways off before it'll be on the air, but the authorization from the Federal Communications Commission gives us 3 years to get it on the air. I'd like to see it happen a lot sooner than that, but that's the deadline for this to happen.
Yeah.
But if we get this grant, we're rolling.
You know, I've got to say something, Rick, I know you put your heart and soul into this. I know to come before the council now and then kind of wonder what's going to happen. I know it has to be difficult, but
Yeah, well, it was, and I was optimistic, so thank you for approving my optimism. Proved out.
Well, the only thing, not to belabor this, but I would really like to see, if we're not gonna get this grant, I would really not like to see a radio station put together with baling wire and.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with our $30,000 being part of it.
I won't buy baling wire with your money. No,
I know you'll buy the chewing gum with mine.
Thank you again.
okay, we'll go to item C, is adopt resolution number 2011, next to number A, resolution approving a business loan in the amount of $25,000 to Daniel Gray and authorizing Michael E. Holland as executive director to negotiate the final terms and execute all documents pertaining to the business loan. Michael?
Thank you, Chairman, members of the Newman Redevelopment Agency, as we are meeting as a Newman Redevelopment Agency now. For those of you who have been following the ongoing saga up at Sacramento, the governor's proposal to terminate and end redevelopment agencies has gained some traction. It made it out of committee. Our attorneys are advising us that could, the legislation could be approved as early as this and signed by the governor as early as this week. So in order to protect the assets that belong to this community, we're taking some actions here tonight. The first of which, even prior to the governor's announcement and the legislation coming out of Sacramento, a local property owner came forward and was asking to see if the redevelopment agency had any business loans for which he could approve his downtown property. The property is located adjacent to our new plaza facility, and he has an outdoor dining area at the back of his building, which is commonly known as the grill. So if anyone has been back there, you know that it has some older trees back there, and he's used pavers and or bricks as part of that. Well, the roots have now pushed up those pavers and really provide some ADA accessibility issues, as well as some tripping hazards. Also, Mr. Gray would like to utilize the improvements that we've done at the plaza, and with the anticipation that there will start being downtown events held on the plaza, would like to redo his outdoor patio area. So he came to us and has asked for a business loan in order to do that. So this was maybe on Wednesday, and Thursday we get the call that, hey, your assets may be stolen by the governor, hurry up and protect them. So we've kind of worked with our redevelopment attorney, Michelle, and she's come up with a business loan document that we have before you tonight. And let's go through a little bit of that. Again, first page that you'll see is a resolution authorizing the execution of that loan. And then we get into the loan agreement itself. Basically, I think where we want to talk about is really the terms of repayment. The terms of repayment, let me try to direct you to the correct page. I apologize. Terms of repayment are trying to create a situation by which we allow the business owner to recoup some of his costs before he has to repay us. So we're looking at a business loan of $25,000 at first. With what we would do is have semi-annual payments. So every 6 months he would be required to make a payment to us. The interest rate on if you look at Exhibit C, it is a promissory note. That's part of that, and this is all needs to be required. The first year we'll charge him no interest. The first year would be a zero interest loan for the first year. Second year, that interest then would go to 1.9%. And start ramping up from there. It's really a step-up type loan. Year 3, interest would then move to 2.9%, and then years 4 through 6, it'd be 3.9%. So we're looking at a 6-year loan for him. Again, we believe what this would do is it would, one, it's going to increase the value of the property, thereby increasing property taxes and allowing the city to do that. We think it's going to create a conducive environment so possibly when we are holding outdoor events on our plaza, and maybe in the evenings and or lunchtime, you might be able to attract some diners to his facility and enjoy any music or performances that might be occurring at the plaza at that particular point in time. And it does it in a way that really creates a win-win situation. It allows him to try to generate some business, to generate the funds to repay the city. So with that, we're recommending approval. If by chance this board elects not to move forward with this business loan and the governor's proposal goes through, he's probably going to steal that money from you. So,
Probably.
so this is a way to encumber some funds so that the governor, again, these are local tax dollars, and we're trying to keep them local.
We out maneuvering the state of California.
We're trying.
Nice
We're
try.
trying the best we can.
One question.
Yes.
They're repaying the loan. Where's it gonna go, the money?
That's a good question. There's a successor agency, and we haven't seen all the legislation, and it's kind of like the Affordable Health Care Act. No one's really seen the legislation, but everyone's going to vote on it. So we don't really know, but all indications it would go to some kind of successor agency and then be split up among the
So
parties
it's gonna go
involved.
right back to where he was gonna take it anyway.
It's probably going to stay, yeah. It's probably going to stay local, but it'll be split up different ways. And of course, the state will
He's
take.
gonna get the RDA money one way or the
He's
other.
gonna- So with that, we are recommending that you adopt the attached resolution that we passed out tonight. It's a resolution approving and authorizing execution of a loan agreement related to documents between the agency and Daniel Gray and Jamie Gray.
I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution number 2011, next number, a resolution approving a business loan in the amount of $25,000 to Daniel Gray and authorizing Michael E. Holland as executive director to negotiate the final terms and execute all documents pertaining to the business loan.
I second that motion.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, item D is adopt resolution number 2011, next to number, resolution approving a funding agreement between the Newman Redevelopment Agency and Housing Authority for the County of Stanislaus.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, this is the item that we've actually been working on for a couple of months with the Housing Authority. California redevelopment law requires redevelopment agencies to assist the production of low and moderate housing within our community. As part of that, the agency is required to set aside 20% of all its funds to help to this cause. Currently, the Housing Authority owns 48 units at Valley Manor Apartments and 16 units on Merced Street, for which we don't have long-term covenants, affordability covenants. And so therefore, the redevelopment agency doesn't get credits for having those affordable units within our boundaries. And again, we are required to provide 60 affordable units by 2014. What we're proposing and what we've talked to them about is they're going to, the Housing Authority has these and they're going to use them as long-term affordable housing for our qualified buyers. What we talked about doing is giving them cash to make improvements to the property in lieu of them providing us these 55-year covenants. So what we're proposing is the city or the redevelopment agency invest $250,000 into these units over a period of 5 years. In return, the Housing Authority is going to grant us 55-year covenants that help us meet our redevelopment agency. The Housing Authority then will take this $250,000, $50,000 a year for 5 years, use that to leverage other monies, and then make those investments into units here in Newman. They cannot take the money outside of our community. They have to invest that here, and they'll use it as part of their 5-year capital improvement plan. So in all reality, they're indicating they could probably leverage our $250,000 into about $1 million worth of improvements to their units. Because they'll match our $250,000 with their own $250,000, then they'll take that money and go out and refinance some bonds and do some other things that will allow them to capture another $500,000. So probably over the next 5 years, you'll see $1 million worth of investment into those units. For anybody who's been over there anytime recently, some of the patios, the floors are rotting out on the patios. The parking lot needs to be repaved. Some of the roofs need to be re-roofed at this particular time. For those members of our community that have been here a while, understand that Valley Manor has been an existing complex for quite a while in our community and has provided housing to a number of families. So with that, and again with the state doing what they're doing up there, we're pushing this through tonight. This agreement has already been drafted. We were just going back and forth and doing some wordsmithing. So now we believe we got it in a final stage that we want to move forward with. So we're asking that you approve this agreement tonight and go ahead and execute the funding agreement that would allow us to capture the long-term covenants and then provide an investment of $250,000 into units within Newman. I can answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Any questions of Michael?
Are we trying to encumber the whole $250,000 at one time or over 5 years?
Well, by us going through this funding agreement, we are encumbering $250,000 over the next 5 years.
So it won't matter if,
That's correct. It's already been encumbered. It's kind of like selling bonds. You've accrued a debt, so.
Council direction?
Yeah, I so move you adopt resolution number 2011, a resolution approving a funding agreement between the Newman Redevelopment Agency and the Housing Authority of the County of Stanislaus.
Second the motion?
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item E, is adopt resolution number 2011, next in number, a resolution approving funding for the West Side Theater improvements. Michael?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, trying to get away our assets and do the best we can to get those into local hands so we can use them. In this particular case, again, we've worked with our redevelopment agency attorney to see how we can help the West Side Theater Foundation do some improvements to the theater building. And walking in with Miss Larson, Miss Ferris, not too long ago, they always have big plans, but it's been a number of years since the building's been painted on the outside. They'd like to see about getting a fresh coat of paint on there. For anybody who's been in there or done a tour, she loves to show you all the improvements that have been made there, and they've done an outstanding job running that and really building that place up. And upstairs, there's building costume rooms and a few other things. But what we'd like to do now, though, is the big thing is paint the outside of the buildings. There is some ADA accessibility issues, and the $10,000 is not going to go this far. But another big issue that Ms. Ferris was telling me about is providing HVAC to the foyer out in the middle, and that's been talked about for a long period of time. So we've structured a loan agreement because we cannot gift these funds to the foundation. We've structured this loan agreement, and again, we have a promissory note on here for that repayment. It is an unsecured loan, so that's really where we're at. There's a list of improvements that really talk about the foundations. We're going to, with the indulgence of this agency, I'd like to add number 4 on Exhibit B, just to allow Ms. Ferris and Mr. David the best opportunities possible, which would include the installation of an HVAC system within the foyer. Now again, unfortunately, the 10,000 won't go that far. So,
Yeah.
so with that, we recommend that we go ahead and move forward with a loan agreement to the West Side Theater Foundation, and it's a no interest loan.
Do we have any more RDA money left to give away? Or to loan, I'm sorry, to loan.
The loan.
We do. Unfortunately, we had that 30,000 we weren't able to give for the radio station.
So we have 30,000 left?
With the 30,000, we were estimating we're probably in the 12 to 15 range after that, and some of that would be used to cover my time that I've spent on these documents. We have some legal fees that are going to be coming up, so yeah, I would say we have about 30,000 that we could go with. So, at your discretion. I'm sure Miss Ferris probably wouldn't argue if you could double that. She probably
stretch that sucker.
Yeah, I just,
Maybe bump it up another 10.
well, I was just telling our attorney, I just feel like we're trying to pull a fast one over the state. If we can get away
That's
with it,
okay.
it's cool. I mean, I'm good
I'm
with
all
that.
for doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, so,
Bring them on.
the theater is near and dear to my heart as well, so, $10,000 won't go very far.
No.
Could you use 20?
You bet.
At this point, I figure, what the hell, why not? If we can, if we can use the RDA money to better improve our community, and obviously the West Side Theater is a huge part of our community, I'd just assume that we send money that way. And
I agree.
and leave some extra, to cover Michael's time and stuff, and so I'd like to bump that up to 20,000.
Quick question, Michael. Did you say a while ago, though, it couldn't be used for O&M?
She's not using it for O&M. She's using it for physical improvements to the property, and it's a loan, not a gift.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was, as well, it was the original agreement 15 years ago is that the city would cover the roof and the central air and heat. And we've kind of gone halvesies last year on the roof, and it finally stopped leaking after 16 years. And the air and heat, we just never got to the front. We're always kind of running in place and getting everything else that mattered. So the front doors are open a lot, so gosh darn. I got put on the back burner, so that's a good thing. But it was an original promise between the organizations, between the city and the West Side Theater Foundation, in our original agreement. But we just kicked the ball and kept running, as you well know, as most of you all know.
Will that cover the HVAC?
I haven't even looked in that direction yet. I do have some promissory volunteers, and that's what, basically, we've done everything with volunteers. It's set down to the electrical. When we redid all the electrical, that's when we first hired people.
Well,
I can
like I
make
say,
$1
I think our theater is second to none, and Gallo's pretty darn nice, but
Well, it's perfect from right across from our plaza, so.
exactly. So, with that information, and leave it to council for some further direction.
Well, I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution number 2011, X number, a resolution approving funding for the West Side Theater improvements. Do we have to mention about raising that
Yes.
from
Amount of
10,
20,000.
to include the $20,000, from $10,000 to $20,000?
Tom, wouldn't we have to amend the resolution to do that rather than adopt it?
No, we can do that here.
So we wouldn't amend it first to 20,000 and then adopt the 20,000?
We've never adopted a resolution, so therefore he's only recommending that we adopt a resolution at 20,000 since
Oh,
it's
okay.
never been an official
He
action.
just did it at the end, but I can.
Yeah. Ditto.
Whatever it is, I'm going to second your motion.
There's been a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Carry on. Okay, we'll go to, see, item F. Adopt
Spend
resolution number
Jerry's
2011, next number, a resolution approving the transfer of redevelopment agency assets to the city of Newman. More fun.
And last but not least, want to thank City Manager Wasden for helping me with this one. He's the one who really kicked this one off. The idea again,
Michael, do you think that the state is anticipating all this is happening statewide?
I'm sure they are. But at some point, they're dragging their heels. There's nothing they can do about it. So,
Okay.
again, based on these actions, the city, or the redevelopment agency, does have some real property assets that I think we could protect. Under the governor's proposal, said successor agency, which may or may not be, this agency itself or members of this organization, can come in, control any of your physical assets, and then sell them off and take the money. So currently we have 3 assets I want to ask you to protect tonight. I'm going to add one to our original memorandum. We have 919 Fresno Street, which is a former McBride building. We'd like to do transfer that asset to the city. And remember, California redevelopment law, under California redevelopment law, it's not anticipated for redevelopment agencies to hold assets for a long period of time. We're only
So we're just complying with the law.
we're only complying with
Okay.
California redevelopment law, right, Tom?
There you go.
Boy, that's great.
Second thing is 1571/1583. Merced Street was purchased with redevelopment funds. That's the site of the Aquatic Center in Howard B. Hill Park.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely want to transfer that over. And then lastly, as you can see as part of the the handout we gave you tonight on Exhibit A, it's APN 128061021 on Prince Road between the West Side Apartments and Rolling Hill Apartments. We own 0.87 acres there. We would also like to transfer that asset to the city. So with that, we've provided two resolutions that need to be approved tonight. One by the redevelopment agency approving the transfer of these real properties to the city, and the second of the city accepting the transfer of these properties and the certain findings relating thereto. So I would ask that the redevelopment agency move forward first in that resolution. If you would, look at your package that we handed out tonight with the item 10F on it. For those that are going to make the motion, just go ahead and read the first resolution up there, and then maybe 3 pages in, you'll see the second resolution that we're asking you to go with. And that would be from the city, not from the agency. I can answer any questions that you may have right now. Tom? That's the proper way, correct?
Yeah, and you could do them both at the same time.
Okay.
Just read the titles.
Well, I make a motion that we approve resolution number 2011. Next number, a resolution of the Newman Redevelopment Agency approving the transfer of certain agency-owned real properties to the city of Newman and making certain findings related thereto. And resolution number 2011, next number, resolution of the City Council of the City of Newman approving the transfer to the city of certain real properties owned by the Newman Redevelopment Agency and making certain findings relating thereto. Is that the right two?
That's it.
Second the motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay.
Item G has been removed from the agenda this evening, so there'll be no action on that. We'll go to item 11. Items from District 5 Supervisor Jim DeMartini. Sorry it took so long to get to you, Jim. Now, we're usually gone by now, I know, but
No, you're still doing so much better in Patterson.
We have to spend some money tonight.
in a whirlwind spin.
So I just have 2 items for you tonight. One, I'd just like to mention the Healthcare Task Force, one of my major projects. It will be meeting Thursday, the 10th, at 6 o'clock in Patterson at the Del Puerto Healthcare boardroom. So we're going to kind of continue on with our Biggest Loser weight loss contest and do some strategic planning. I did have a meeting with Emmanuel Hospital and in Patterson, Del Puerto Healthcare in Patterson, and the Emmanuel is considering the urgent care clinic in Patterson. The last time I was here, I wasn't sure where they were going with this or what they wanted to do. I was hoping maybe they might come to Newman, because Patterson does have some healthcare facilities there, much more than Newman, but they are looking at an urgent care, and as our statistics are from the OSHPOD that we looked at really showed a couple of years ago, as the emergency room in Emmanuel gets clogged up in the evenings because there's no place to go for relatively minor medical care, not life-threatening, but a broken arm or a cut or a sick baby or something that really could be taken care of in an urgent care clinic. You have nowhere to go except into an emergency room in the evening. Realizing that, they're trying to come up with something on the west side where you can go up until probably about midnight, which that would be a huge improvement over what there is here right now, because I think at about 5 or 6 o'clock there isn't anything open. And these are one of the goals of the task force, was to get something like that started on the west side. So we had a good first meeting in Emmanuel. We'll want another meeting in about 2 weeks as they kind of kick around the numbers and what might be able to, they may be able to accomplish. Whether they do it on their own or with a partnership with Del Puerto Healthcare District is still unknown at this time.
But that is good news. Probably the bad news is that it's in Patterson, not Newman, but at least it's on the west side. Anything would be an improvement. Probably the bigger news today is the West Park project. We had a long, bitter meeting at the Board of Supervisors today as Camillus brought a change project forward before the board. And of course, unfortunately, it passed 3-2. I did not like the project, and I tried to point out inconsistencies in the project, a lack of financing. I went back to the tape of what was said 4 years ago and pointed out all these things that he said he was going to do didn't happen, and the timeline, the financing, and so much has changed. But we had a parade of useful idiots led by our Alliance, which is a very sinister department within the county. And the thing that really bothered me was the Chambers of Commerce of Turlock and Modesto were supporting the project. And I belong to the Patterson and Newman Chamber of Commerce, and I can assure you, and I did tell them that no one had ever contacted the Chambers of Commerce here, nor the city councils, nor the mayors, nor had a meeting on the west side at all in years. And that's so. I know the Alliance was about it, and I could say I call them useful idiots because they allow themselves to be used by this developer. And they don't use any common sense, and they seem to be unable to analyze what we've got. I was hoping that the objective of the board, what I was trying to do, was open up the project again for an RFP and see what other interest there would be from other developers. And Mr. Camillus would be able to resubmit a project. He wouldn't be excluded from it, but I wanted to see what else could be done, something besides the railroad containers brought in from the Port of Oakland. But this project has numerous flaws in it. It's a scaled-down project, but the rail bond money is not a really sure thing. It's originally financed by Lehman Brothers, who went under. Then it was going to be financed by redevelopment money, and I know as your council had addressed tonight, the state is going to take the redevelopment money almost for sure, and that's the major funding for the infrastructure for the business park. If that goes away, it leaves really no funding outside of Melrose taxes, which doesn't seem realistic in a business park. So anyway, the board had approved a 15-month extension for Mr. Camillus to come back with the project and a timeline to get things done. Whether he can do it, I really have my doubts, because the last time he had 4 years and wasn't able to do it at all. And so there's not much that we can do now for 15 months, but just see what he comes up with. And my guess is that he won't have it done, and he'll ask for even another extension. So anyway, that's about all I have to say. I know the mayor was there, and the city manager, Mr. Holland, was there. And it was pretty well full of West Side residents. So we didn't go the way I wanted, but I sure gave it my best.
I'm glad you held back, Jim.
But I didn't want there to be any doubt that where I stood on this issue. It's been a very frustrating issue for me.
Well, there was certainly some good dialogue. Quite frankly, I wasn't totally surprised when Michael and I, discussed back and forth. I expected Supervisor O'Brien to go the way he did. I was somewhat not totally surprised in Supervisor Chiesa, because I think Vito is an honorable man and is probably wanting to give all the benefit of the doubt. And, but I think it was pretty well stated by many people that it was a bad project, and nothing that Mr. Camillus had brought to the board today that I heard was anything different than he brought to the board 4 years ago. And except a lot of, well, I'm gonna do this or I'm gonna do that, but whenever you questioning on commitments, and the city manager pointed out, the railroad, they didn't really commit to anything other
No,
than.
they didn't. The railroad committed the same way a taxi cab company would commit. If you built a hotel, would they pick up the patrons if somebody called them? And that was
Yeah.
kind of their commitment. Yeah, we'll do that.
And I think the same probably holds true for the port. I didn't really see a huge commitment on their part.
It was very vague, and I had to drag it out of them that the Port of Oakland was not putting up a cent for this. And it was extremely vague. Also, for just the people that are interested, you can go to the Board of Supervisors website and go on past agendas. And if you want something interesting, go to February 13th, 2007. And that is when Mr. Camillos and Hillwood presented their projects to the board. And I played that back and I took some notes of it, and you'll see the timeline that Mr. Camillos said that he was going to have certain things done was never done. And I think it was of interest as he was touting himself as this industrial developer, and he had up on the screen, which you'll be able to see in the video, the projects that he's working on in the air park in Sacramento. That was never built. And then the Woodland Park was another industrial development in Yolo County. And I called the supervisor down there to find out how that was going. He says that had never been built either. So these two big projects that he was touting as he's such a great industrial developer were never built. And it's on the tape for anybody who'd like to see it. Plus, you have the Mariposa Lakes project that was never built, and then a disaster in Mountain House that he was responsible for. Those track record's really not good, and I was hoping that we could open it up and see if somebody else had an interest in this project, but it just didn't happen today.
Yeah, and I was surprised. I thought, although Supervisor Keys asked a couple of questions that I thought he was almost leaning towards not supporting, but it became clear, and Supervisor Withrow asked some very, very good questions for being a new supervisor. Obviously, he had done his homework, and he also saw through what our city manager called smoke and mirror show. And
Yeah, his comments were good. And
Yeah.
he's a numbers guy,
Yeah.
so everything's got to calculate out for him.
Yeah.
And, the numbers just really don't work on this project.
So-
Withrow and I were together on this one.
yeah, so I guess we'll see what happens in 15 months, although I just kind of look at that as a lot of wasted time that probably could have done a new RFP and maybe gotten some new projects shown with some interest, and the fact that Mr. Camillus could have submitted a new one. I almost think it's unfair to Hillwood because what Camillus submitted and got approved is nowhere close to what he now has on the table. So it's almost like he got to submit a second proposal, and
It's
nobody
an
else got
entirely
to.
new project. I talked to county council after the meeting. We have no agreement with this new project at all. We have no memorandum of understanding. We don't have any agreement on who's going to pay for what. It's a completely new project. Our agreement with Camillus expired some time ago. So now this is just like starting over again on square one with an exclusive negotiating contract with him again on a new project. Although it's a similar project, but it's new.
Yeah.
Okay,
Any questions of Supervisor? Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, thank you.
Item 12, items from city manager and staff. Michael?
Thank you, Mayor. As you can see by tonight, we are very concerned with the proposal of our governor up at the state of California. I know there's part of the legislature right now that is not supporting his budget, but all indications are it's going to get approved through a straight party line type vote. I would encourage anybody here tonight and anybody listening in the next day or two, please call your assemblywoman Kathleen Galgiani and tell her to protect your local redevelopment agency. Your downtown, your theater, that's all redevelopment agency That's your activities right there. If all that money goes away, it's going to be devastating. Our business park and all the jobs that were generated out there, that's redevelopment agency. Without being too, I don't even know the word. Case in point, we have similar demographics with our community sister to the south. Very similar demographics. If you look at the two communities 20 years ago, you look at them and they're sister communities. One community adopted a redevelopment agency and moved forward with implementation of it. The other did not. Now you can go through one downtown at lunchtime or at dinner time, and there's lots of cars, lots of activity, beautiful streetscape. With the other, there's not quite that. All you have to do is just drive through these two communities, and again, they're only 4 miles apart, same demographics. One has a redevelopment agency and the other doesn't, to see the impact redevelopment agencies have on our community. So please, 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 if you don't do anything tomorrow but one thing, call your assemblywoman and let them know that they need to support you as constituents. She needs to vote against the governor's proposal. Tell her to protect her constituents, not her party. It's very, very important. I can't stress that enough, but please do that. With that being said, we are trying to embark on our own budget process. It's very difficult at this point in time because you don't know where the governor's proposal is going to be, VLF fees, COP funding. There's a lot of monies that we receive right now that we do not believe we're going to be able to count on. You're talking in the tunes of $150,000 plus to our budget. So we will do the best we can to bring it again a nice balanced budget forward from you. It's going to be very difficult this time. We might have to do two budgets. Do a preliminary budget and adopt that like we do in June, and then just see what happens with the state. In all likelihood, they probably won't pass a budget on time. I can't remember the last time they have, which is better than the federal government, who never passed a budget this year. And for those who didn't know that, the continuing resolutions of a budget we haven't passed. So we on the local levels are required to pass the budget, and we will do that, and we will do that by the time set by the state legislature, which is by June 30th. So with that, we will be bringing that back forward to you in our typical schedule, which means you'll get it late May, early June, and take action on it in June. So with that, that's all the Colum news that I have, and we'll turn it over to staff, and hopefully they'll cheer us up.
Any questions of Michael? Okay, who's up? Stephanie, you first.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Just wanted to provide an update on the dog park project. Been working closely with Claire Souza, and she was able to find a really great deal for the fencing for the park. We successfully ordered that and paid for it with grant funding, and she was kind enough to cover the difference because, it did go over a little bit. Got an email this week. It's been shipped from New Jersey and is on its way here. We expect it to come into the UPS facility Friday, which means we should have it at our corp yard sometime next week. So as soon as the weather dries up a bit, Claire will be going out there with her folks and her volunteers to be installing the fencing. So
Great.
We are on the path of development with that park.
Great.
I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, Stephanie?
Anything coming up on grant funding for the Aquatic Center?
Round 2 of the Prop 84 grant has been announced. I attended a workshop in Watsonville last week. They have changed a couple of the rules on there, which will affect everyone's grant applications, including ours. We're moving forward with applying for that, and hopefully we'll get good news.
Correct.
And for the council, so you know, when Stephanie showed up to the meeting, everybody knew Stephanie's name and everybody knew about Newman's project. It really, it's a catch-22 because we were that close. We really believe by them knowing her name and knowing all about our project that we were up near the top. We just, for whatever reason, weren't above the line. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Chief?
evening, Mayor.
I'm getting a little bit more comfortable saying that now, you know. Chief.
Rolls off the tongue,
It
doesn't it?
does. It just rolls.
Speaking of dog parks, you can go on our Facebook from Newman PD and look at all the animals you can adopt and take out to the new dog park. Also on Pet Finder, there's plenty of dogs out there for you. This Friday, I'd like to invite everybody to the Mcconnell Center for a gun safety class that the Newman Police Department is hosting. We're bringing in some people to teach about gun safety. It's a free class, starts at 6 o'clock, ends at 8. So it'll be there for anybody who wants to attend. And April 9th is the Newman Canine Association Crab Feed. This will be our 3rd annual, and you can pick up tickets at the Newman Police Department, or just about every officer is carrying them with them. So we'd like to invite everybody out. It's a fun night. With that, I'll answer any questions.
Any questions of the chief? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Gardner, Lou?
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. I have quite a few items actually to talk to you about. First one is S&T Street project, curb gutter sidewalk that we're looking at doing some rehabilitation through a CDBG grant loan. Project bids this Friday. Hopefully by the next council meeting, I'll bring an item forward for your consideration for the contract on that project. The following fiscal year, July 2011, we should have the next phase of that project, which would include PQ and R Street. So PQ, RS, and T Street, hopefully we'll get some handicap ramps and curb gutters and fix all the flooding and raised curbs that we have throughout that area for this year. Main Street name fixes, I'm still working on that. I know that's a hot item. I do have a proposal in my hand, but I'm having our city engineer look over it to see what he thinks structurally, get a second opinion, so to speak, and trying to work out the final details before I actually bring that back to council for your consideration. Water rate ad hoc study committee, we met, had a pretty good meeting. It went a little longer than we anticipated, which is good. The next meeting is tentatively scheduled for March 24th. I'll send an email out on that if there's any questions on that. We're kind of refocusing this next meeting on the questions that were asked, and there's been some follow-up emails that I've received on that. And so we'll be having a follow-up meeting on that. And then at that point, we'll probably schedule a workshop with council, or maybe even do it during a council meeting to go over the rate study with you and some of the questions and findings that we have. Last week, the city manager and I traveled up to Stockton and met with the Caltrans District 10 director and her staff to talk about Highway 33. The conversation originally started with some issues we've had with the construction they did here last summer, and it evolved into quite a bit more. So I kind of walk you through kind of steps that we went through. With the overlay work that they've done, they've increased the cross slope on that freeway, on the highway, quite a bit. And if you park on the side, you can see the cars leaning quite a bit. And I showed them a picture of the improvements we did on the plaza versus the cross slopes that they have where it's not by the plaza. And you can see quite a bit of the cars leaning, and explained to them that I don't think that's safe. And they even had their shop director there, which handles highway improvements that are handicap issues and ADA access stuff. So they came back to us with, we can do some temporary fixes on some of the driveway approaches, such as Yancey and Newman Smog and Lube. They originally approached me, just that's what they wanted to do, and I rejected that. Told them that that's not our standard. We have a higher standard here, and we expect that they would uphold that as well. So then they came back and said, well, let's do these temporary fixes, and then we can do some interim fixes between now and September. We'll have to get some design, some additional funding together. We can do some more interim improvements to help with these driveway approaches, and that they seem feasible. And then the last thing that we talked about was they offered for us to take over the highway, just to dedicate the highway to us. And I'm more than willing to consider those options. However, before we would do that, I would ask that they upgrade the highway to our current standard, which is the plaza, to have that look. And I really fully expected that they would kind of pull back at that point, but they didn't. They were receptive to the idea, and they've had their staff out there this week kind of looking at the cross slopes, looking at the highway, looking at the plaza. And the short story here is the director has asked, and the city manager and I offered up to partner together to look at a long-term plan to see how we could fund this with multiple funding situations like we did with the plaza, put a long-term project together, and to look at improving the highway, the freeway, the Highway 33 from city limit to city limit, north to south. Now this is a long process. This would take, if I had to put a guess on it, we're looking at 5 years to get the funding together and another 5 to 7 years to design and get it constructed. However, you got to start planning somewhere. With the plaza, we started planning in 1994, and we got it constructed in 2010, 2011. So it's not that it can't happen, it's just gonna take a lot of bird dogging, and you're looking at the person that's gonna do it. I will be bird dogging the heck out of them. I'm gonna make sure that whatever they do is gonna be something that we can be proud of, and then take over the improvements in the highway, and we don't have to deal with the bureaucracy of Caltrans. And any questions on that? I see some.
Is that something we want to do?
Grins and.
Is that something we want to do?
Yeah.
I think it is. Right now we have some storm drainage issues out there, and the sidewalks are put in the 20s, and they haven't really done any improvements. And I don't have a long history with the city of Newman, but looking what I see out there with the curb gutters and sidewalks alone, I can see some of them stamps on them were 1921. I don't think that they've been in here doing much improvement.
That's why they call it historic downtown Newman.
Good point. But I don't think that's what the council and the residents would envision. I think we have set a standard, and I would hope that we could uphold that. It's going to take a lot of effort, and it's going to take a lot of drawn-out meetings with Caltrans, but it was important, and I think that the district director was there to meet with us and gave direction to her staff in that meeting, and they've since have been out here looking at the highway. We'll see where that takes us.
She's getting a pretty good view of Newman, because I've had some correspondence with her, and I'll talk about later on I-5 signage as well. So she's new, and so she's learned real quick who Newman is.
You must have made some good inroads, because it was a very positive meeting. We come out of it felt very good. And we were even going to send them an invitation to my next subject, which is the Plaza project. We were looking at kind of a grand opening ribbon cutting ceremony, and I've been meeting with the Chamber of Commerce, kind of throwing some ideas around and some dates around, and talking with the city manager. We're kind of looking at April 28th, which is a Thursday, possibly from 5 to 7 p.m., if council's agreeable to that. One item that was kind of thrown out was perhaps we get some volunteers from council to barbecue that night for us.
We can do that.
That's
Can't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we can do it.
We can do that.
We can do it.
Good. Does April 28th seem like it's something we could possibly look at moving forward? I know the chamber is looking at going to their board the next meeting to look at that as well. They're just kind of waiting to see what council's opinion was on that.
I'm down for it. Sure.
Okay, we'll move that item forward. With that, that's the only items I have. If you have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer them.
Any thought on, since it's going to be it should be a gala celebration, I was thinking maybe a weekend would be better.
That's a possibility.
I mean, maybe somebody in the community, maybe there's a couple bands that would like to play on stuff like that. I mean, we could really do something really nice.
We got the hookup right up there.
We had one volunteer last night that auditions.
There you go.
A band.
Yeah,
Said
you
they'd hook up
like,
with-
you do.
Okay, one thing we might need if we get into such a big gala event, we might have to look at funding on how we do some of this. I don't know what this would cost if we get some.
RDA money?
RDA money.
Now we're
Don't
talking.
tell me you want 30,000 either.
I think we're down to 20 left in the budget. I think that's something that's worthwhile looking into if that's council's direction. I didn't really want to get something too big and onerous, but if that's council's direction, I'll be happy to do
Well,
that.
I think for what that project is, I think it deserves something, and something better than maybe chips and hot dogs, and something a little bit less than steak and crab.
There's a crab feed coming up. Okay, let us look into that. Maybe meet with the chamber president again and see if we can pick a weekend that seems to fit some schedules better, doesn't interfere with Easter and things of that nature, and plan it out a little bit. Meet with Miss Ferris and get some opinions from her as well. And
I think it'd be nice. I mean, obviously it would be nice to invite some county staff that were some Stancog people and other. Just
right.
It's our time to show off and.
We have a stage there too.
Yeah.
The school.
And you'll sing for us?
We intend to invite, at least 2 members of the board of supervisors.
Yeah, exactly.
2 we're happy with today.
I think we just invite one.
We'll invite the Stancog board, and we'll do it very well. We'll invite the director from the District 10 to come down and do a bunch of things. But Then Garner and I work together and see with the theater foundation as well as the chamber if we got a weekend that works.
That'd be
well,
great.
and then we'll go from there.
I barbecue a heck of a tri-tip, so.
I'll take that as a yes.
You know,
For the
I
barbecue
mean,
and the
I've,
tri-tip.
I've got a barbecue wagon I can pull down too, so.
We'll
I got a
request a
Traeger.
couple.
You do?
I have a Traeger.
Well, let's do it.
Okay, what else? So
Let's go
what do we
for it.
have? We have a trailer with a barbecue on it, sir? Okay, so
I'm
anyway.
I'm out of town that weekend.
Okay, so what I'll do on the next council meeting is I'll bring it, this item under discussion again, like we're talking about, with some more ideas that I've put together with some volunteers that have volunteered for us, and some ideas on weekends that'll work for most people. And we can have some further discussion at that point.
It'd be great.
Okay?
Yeah.
It'd be great.
Anything else?
Thank you, Garner.
You're welcome.
Lou? Okay.
All set.
Council, Don,
I have nothing tonight.
Roberta,
I don't have anything.
Nick,
Nothing tonight.
Bob.
I just have to thank Rick again. I know I'm overdoing it, but Rick, thank you for everything that you've done. I appreciate it. And all the people that helped you.
Okay, just a couple of quick items. We're meeting tomorrow morning, or tomorrow afternoon, right, Michael, with Orsenda Creek?
Yes, 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock. And I already touched on the board meeting tonight, so we won't belabor that anymore. But along with that, I got pulled out of that to go attend a press conference today regarding the state taking our RDA funds and enterprise zones. And the only reason why I mention this is I think we were live on TV, a couple different TV stations. And we were met with a group of students from MJC, about 30, 40 of them, chanting and everything. And you could hear them coming down. If you're familiar with the plaza there in Modesto, next to Fuzio's and Brendan Theaters, they came off of, I guess it would have been, is that 10th Street?
Yeah.
And you could hear this loud roar, this chant. And you couldn't understand what they were saying until once they cleared the buildings and they were protesting funding, that education should be free, yada, yada, yada. And I can't remember the exact taunt, but they did not know that we were having a mayor's press conference live on TV when they did, but they made the best of it once they realized that there was TV cameras. So Mayor Ridenour, he kind of turned it around and used them to slam the state. Not only are you killing cities, but look what you're doing to these poor students as well. So it was interesting, and of course the students they got louder once they realized that they were on TV, and the cameras were all on us, and you could see them just shifting right over to the kids. So it was kind of fun in a way, but. At any rate, and the other thing is, and I was going to talk to you because I've had some ongoing discussions with the state regarding the signage on I-5 since you brought it to my attention. We got some changes made, and then we were still having some problems with people not getting because if you had a GPS, if you put, coming from LA, you want to get off at Newman exit, there was no clear sign that said Newman exit. It said Stir Road exit 423. And so I've had some ongoing discussions with the state, with Mr. Agar, and then the new District 10 person in charge of our area. And they were saying, well, geez, it's so expensive to redo signs. So, well, just give us back our old signs that just said Newman exit. But I guess they threw those away. So, yeah, so what they're going to do, and I haven't checked in the last week, they're talking about putting some directional arrows on, because they're concerned about people being able to see the signs on I-5. I tried to explain to them, the signs where they're posted are fine. Just change the lettering from Stir Road to Newman, like it used to be. That's all we wanted. And they still couldn't get it through their head. They're still talking about, well, but they can't clearly be seen from the road. I said, yes, they can. Just change Stir Road to Newman. So now they've come up with their infinite wisdom. They're going to put directional arrows right after the last sign that says Newman exit, I think it's 1 mile, whatever it is, and it says Stir Road. And they're going to put some, so people can follow these directional arrows to the Newman exit. So we'll see how that works. That's round 2 of my talks with the state of California, so,
Yeah.
GPS thing, doesn't
yes. And I tried to explain that to them, and it didn't sink in, so,
Sounds like the Army Corps of Engineers.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I am working on that, and we'll see what happens. Okay? Okay. With that, we are adjourned. Good night.